Thank you for listening to the Real and Raw podcast. For more information, you can find us at inspiringhope.org.au or join the mailing list. Journey with us as we aim to inspire the hope of Jesus from generation to generation. We are praying for you. Have a blessed day.
Well, hello. Welcome back, girls. We are, welcome back, Jess.
Thank you, Jen.
Before I jump into everything, because I did that last time, we have to talk about what we're drinking today. What cuppa do you have?
I have the wild apple and cinnamon with ginger puka tea. I love herbal tea, and this came from your festive collection box.
Festive collection. We're getting ready for Christmas.
It a go.
Do you know we're under 6 months to Christmas? That happened like a month ago.
Yes.
Don't forget Christmas in July. It's still here too, actually.
Yeah, Christmas in July. So that's your Christmas in July festive
Yeah,
tea.
that's right. I did that on purpose.
I'm drinking turmeric. How do you say it? Puka?
Puka?
Puka.
I think that's how you say it.
Turmeric. I love the turmeric tea. And what are you drinking, Annabelle?
I am drinking hot water with remnants of chai tea in it. I've got a nice herbal mix at the bottom of my cup. So it's lightly flavoured, how I like it.
Lightly flavoured. And we've done something a little bit different today. So when I got married, Steve and I decided that we were going to collect the Starbucks cups from the Where You Go series. So these
that's
are our.
what they are. I didn't know what these were.
Yeah. So because they're not used. This doesn't probably look like a Pretty Things mug. Like it's not a normal.
Well, it's not
Jeanette
your
mug.
normal theme.
No, it's not my normal
Your normal
theme.
aesthetic.
But it is something that Steve-O and I share. So
That's so cute.
that's the California one. So we got that on our America trip. And Annabelle has the Iowa one. So shout out to our Iowa girls. I love Iowa because my Lisa lives there. And this one, I have been to Tokyo, but Timmy and Gemma brought this back when they went to Japan. So
that's lovely.
that's the story behind the cups and the tea. But we are here again on my couch this time.
It's very comfy.
It is comfy. We've got our throw rugs. We've just popped on the heater because it is July and it's getting cold where I live. And so we've popped on the heater. We're nice and warm. We're nice and snuggly. We've got vegetable soup and Jess's homemade bread to look forward to after this. But we are part 2. Well, we didn't put it in the oven, so it won't burn.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Baking, not burning.
Baking. We'll do the bread next.
We will bake, not burn bread next.
Yeah.
So we're on part 2 of our 5-part series. So this series is Journeys Through Life Transitions, and our first part, which if you haven't listened to it, please go back and listen because otherwise this one might not make so much sense. And then we've got part 3, 4 and 5 to come. And I also wanted to say that if you want to know exactly when the podcast comes out, because some people have been asking, and I'm going to show my age when I say this, but Annabelle's made a little thing on the website that pops up and you can like type in your details. I'll just sound really blonde and dumb. And people call it subscribing, but I call it like just joining the Real and Raw family, so that Annabelle can send you the email and it comes straight to your email, and then you can just press the little button and the podcast comes up. Yeah, we're real fancy here at Inspiring Hope.
Very fancy, very techy.
It's what everyone else does, but you know, the older you get, this will happen. This will happen to you, Annabelle.
Oh, it's coming for me.
You think that it's not going to happen, but you start to get to this age where technical things become challenging. So
thank goodness Annabelle's here.
Thank goodness Annabelle's here. Another thing that is challenging, Jess, is we are talking, let me get the little motto that I've wrote. We are engaging intentionally by navigating life's transitions in a measured way. So we're here today to talk about intentionality. We had such a beautiful moment talking about engaging with life's transitions, and now we are going to talk about intentionality. So I don't know where should we start? Help me know where to start. I'm thinking, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, you began with engaging because that's the first step when you talked about noticing when you are going through a transition and then choosing to engage, and you really were very honest and open about the transition of through losing your mum particularly and the life after the loss of mum.
Yeah.
And that was so I felt like that was just so meaningful. And you were talking about engaging, but then you were talking about choosing to engage. And I felt like that might have then led into intentionally.
Yes, beautiful segue. So I guess in my life, and when I wrote this this little blurb or came up with these 5 words, I was just saying in the last episode that was, just after my mum had passed away. And intentionally for me in my walking with the Lord is I have to intentionally choose to trust. So it's intentional trust. Because one of the things that can be really frustrating in life's transition, and I'm going to be really real and raw here, and I hope it doesn't get me in too much trouble, is particularly when you're going through the lows, but even with the highs, when someone just turns around to you and says, I just trust God, He's got it all sorted. But you're standing there and let's be real, maybe it's, a week before your wedding and you just so as girls, we get the mind clutter. I call it the mind clutter. And you're like, yeah, but what does, thanks, but not helpful. And it's not, I don't mean that in a condescending way. It's just, we need to put legs on statements, not just make statements. And I think that that's what intentionally all comes down for me. So when my mum passed away, I remember we got home from the hospital and my brother has this certain way he kind of looks when he is just trying to process something, and he sort of tilts his head and he has this smile. And you had sent a box of groceries from Harris Farm.
Oh, yeah.
But instead of 4 bottles of water, there was 3 bottles of water. And so I guess that was the moment where we had to engage with the reality. Well, we're now a family of 3. And my brother just had that look like, oh, that's so sweet that she's done that, and, that tilt and, oh, look at the 3 bottles. And it was, it was kind of like a photo moment, but it was intentional, like you'd thought through that. And one of a large part of that grief process actually was how intentional people were with me. And I remember another one of my friends, it was such an intentional comment around that time and such a releasing comment, because she said to me, Jeanette, all this food that people are baking and sending, and this is a real and raw comment, but it's also a relieving comment if you've just had someone pass away in your world. I'm laughing because it's kind of it's a funny comment. She's like, you don't have to eat it all. Don't feel like you have to sit there and eat through all this food. This is their way of grieving. Accept it. Thank them for their intentionality for blessing you, but it's okay to share it. Or it's even okay to throw it out. It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to, and that was very releasing for me. And I remember a very I don't know, just one of those life-changing conversations. Not long before my mum passed away, my dearest friend in Iowa, Lisa, she was actually out in Australia, and we were standing out on the road just saying goodbye. I was driving off and she was going to the airport the next morning, and we were just saying goodbye and trying to part ways. And she is a friend like you who has never been afraid to engage with me with the hard questions. So she's like, Jeanette, when your mum passes, what's your plan? You know, what are you going to do? Like, what's the plan? Like, what do you need from us? And
that is such, I just have to say, as a friend of someone who has lost someone, great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, and a great way to support the person going through it.
Yeah, and she was, and I talked about this with Petter, people who just choose to engage themselves in that moment, you know. And I just said to her, Lisa, I just see this plain white canvas, because I made mention in the previous episode about not having to go to the chemo appointments, not having to drop around to my parents' house, you know, 3 times in a day, not having to go to a hospital. And I just have to write a new chapter. And in order to do that, I have to intentionally trust God. And God, like I referred to last episode, he is in that new chapter. He already knows what it's going to hold, and together we're going to paint that canvas. And I mean, I never got a physical canvas, but I definitely had a mental canvas. And I remember a really poignant time in a grief journey is when you get home from the funeral, because when you get home from the funeral, everyone's gone home. Usually the flowers and the meals, it's usually kind of a week on. The meals have stopped, the flowers have stopped, the texting every day stopped. And which, you know, let's be real and raw, like people, we have to learn to repaint the canvas to step into the next journey. But it's a very poignant moment. And I've just written some words here because this came from like my journal from around that time. And, you know, Psalm 27 was so, I'll just put my coffee cup down for a sec. Psalm 27, my teacup. See, this doesn't really look like a teacup. This is more like a hardcore coffee mug. Yeah.
It is from Starbucks.
It is from yes, so it's from a coffee place. But it just says in verse 1, it says, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Or what shall I fear? Okay, and he is the light of that circumstance, and he is our salvation in that circumstance. The Lord, my heavenly Father, is the stronghold of my life. Of whom or what shall I be afraid? So, you know, I don't have to be afraid. I do have to be intentional. And there's this really, I don't think it appears anywhere else in the Word of God, but there's this very interesting verse here, because for those of us who love Jesus, what's interesting for me, Jess, in terms of my life, I'm not worried about the end of my life. I'm not worried about where I'm going. I know that heaven is real. I know that God is there. I am probably a little worried about the process, like how am I going to pass away one day? Like what will that look like?
Yeah.
How will those final moments be? Is it going to be lonely? Am I going to be in pain? Am I going to, you know, like I do wonder about that, but I'm not worried about the end goal. But the reason we need to intentionally trust in navigating our life's journeys is because we are not there yet. And you mentioned it before in the last episode. about engaging. Like, God doesn't want us to be robbed of the now, because this verse talks about the land of the living, and it says, I remain confident of this. This is verse 13 in Psalm 27. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. That's talking about now on planet Earth. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Another translation says, I would have despaired if I did not believe I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And when it comes to navigating life's transitions, we have to intentionally trust. And I've written these words. When I'm afraid, we have to intentionally trust. When it's unknown, we have to intentionally trust. We have to know that God is our source and our strength. He's our safety. He's our guide. And we have to intentionally trust that in life's journeys and in life's transitions, He is fighting for us. He's already on the other side. He's in it. He's in the middle of it. He's at the beginning of it. And He's at the end of it. We have to intentionally trust, not to fear. You know, we have to intentionally trust that God is all I need. We have to intentionally trust. And I know what you're going to say next. Okay, that's great. But like people gave you that verse, how do you do that? Well, it comes down to this one word, choice. So maybe you can share, if you don't mind, like when I have a really pressing circumstance in my life, I've actually got one right now that I'm going through, and I have, like, it is, and this is okay, girls. Sometimes you have to do it literally second by second. Lord, I'm choosing to trust you. Sometimes it's minute by minute. Sometimes the circumstances are so dire in our life and so intense, and we're having to deal with that brain fog, that mind racing, that, it's second by second. Sometimes it's hour by hour. For all of us, it's day by day. But Lord, I'm choosing to trust you. And when you go upstairs in my house, I was just showing Annabelle and Jess before, but you can see the city skyline, so the skyline of Sydney. And sometimes we wake up in the morning and there's like a break. So we're high up on a mountain. The city skyline's way in the different distance, but there's a break, and that's where all the land and all the suburbs of Sydney are. And sometimes we wake up and the fog is low, right? And you can see the fog. You can't see any of Sydney. You can't see the landscape you can see today. And it's interesting because I've had so many conversations with the Lord. I know that the city's there. I know that the city hasn't fallen or burnt to the ground overnight or anything like that, but I can't see it. And our journey with the Lord can be tricky in we know that He's got a plan and a purpose. We know that it's going to be okay. We do know that, but it's very poignant. It's such a tension to intentionally trust, and that's a choice. And so for me, in my mind, it just races and races and races. And for me, I have to talk through things, or I have to talk it out. And so what that looks like for me is I have to physically say out loud, Lord, I'm choosing to trust you with this circumstance. I'm choosing to trust that you're going to help me to get through the night because I can't sleep. I'm choosing to trust. I'm choosing to not fear, So for you, for example, when you've got something really intense or even something really happy, like does your mind race, or do you just put it to the side, or how do you regulate yourself?
Well, so I love this topic, and I feel like this is something that we've been talking about for a couple of years at church, and it's so cool that this happens to us so often.
Yeah.
Where you'll be like, oh, I've just been thinking about this, and I just did a sermon on this, and we were just talking about this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we just did the same
It's so true.
thing.
So true.
And it also is a really great imagery of the stuff that we've talked about in the previous in our previous series, where that intentionality and choosing to trust God is about putting value on the vision that God has given you in that moment of engagement. So when you talked about engaging as your first point, the first step that you take, the reason that you're engaging is to be present, but it doesn't just stop there. Engaging with God is about getting insight into what is the time and the season for this moment.
Yes.
What is the lesson for this moment? What is the presence telling me is my learning and my opportunities for this time?
Yes.
You're starting to build that vision, just like when we're talking about joining, you're engaging, you're becoming the younger ox with the aleph, then you're going through the door into creative heavenly spaces, in creative heavenly realms. And the whole point of you being in a heavenly realm with the Creator is so that you can learn how to co-create the current circumstance and how to walk in the design and design it with the Creator. And you're learning about the design of this world and the design of your life.
Yes.
And so when you're engaging with God, you are actually building the vision. You're building on the design, the blueprint. You're starting to learn, oh, that's where this goes, and that's how this is what the lesson is for this current season. And then when the rubber hits the road, then when you're up at 3 a.m.
Yes.
and you're worried, and when you're walking through these situations, because you still have to get up in the morning, you still have to go to work, you still have to feed your kids,
You
you still have to do all the things. When you're then confronting that person or overseeing this problem or going through, the intention is about choosing to put value on the vision rather than just going, God, you're in control, you do it.
Yes.
I'm giving this to God. Yes, you're giving it to God in a trusting way, but you're giving it to Him so that you and Him can work on it together and keep choosing to say yes to the vision and choosing to say yes to the lesson. And so as you were talking, it was just great because I was just listening and you just had so many really practical ways of being in a very high tense situation and then choosing to say, I will trust you, and speaking out. I like how you said, I speak it out sometimes and say, God, I'm choosing to trust you and what you've told me about this circumstance and what you've told me about my direction. I really appreciated hearing that also just from that practical perspective, because sometimes I like to get into the meanings and understanding all of some of the theory behind it all, and putting that into practice is something that you do very well.
Yeah, and I just love that analogy because it brings the sorry, Blossom's just opening and closing a door. It's very cute. It brings, because there's this tension between knowing something and walking in it. And Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Okay, we all know there's a God, right? But the being still part is the tension.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about going into all those heavenly spaces and stopping and praying, that's the being still. But then it turns back the tension. Okay, I've mastered the being still, but am I going to trust intentionally what God is showing me?
And that's the kicker, I think. That's the hard part, because
Yes.
you don't see yourself as good enough to have a vision that is good enough to trust in.
Yes.
And we often go, well, I'm not spiritual enough. I haven't done my quiet time today. I can't trust this vision. Oh, that's just my imagination.
Yes.
You know, and so it's important for you to really work that muscle and begin trusting
Yes.
that. And the intention, it shifts that perspective just that little bit from religion into spiritual
Yes.
guidance and interactive living with the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And that oneness with God is about learning the language. So you've got to learn
Yes.
the engagement part so that you have something to choose.
Yes.
You know, because otherwise you're just being religious.
Yes.
So when you get that vision and you have that conversation with God and you start to engage with what's happening in your world, that is the thing. That's the focus. And then the intention is choosing to use that as your foundation rather than just praying more, reading the Bible more, going to church more, going to youth group more, doing all of the rituals instead of trusting God in that vision and that conversation with him in your own unique way.
Yeah.
That's really intimidating because we've been taught we're not good enough and we're wretched, unworthy sinners who have no value here. And that's just the opposite of what Jesus spoke about.
Yeah. I would have despaired if I did not believe I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. So all of this stuff really goes back to that daily walk with the Lord. And I know it's a big word, but you know, sanctification, that what that means is walking with the Lord daily and allowing him to refine you. And when you said working the muscle, by the way, like I said in the last episode, like none of us know what we're doing. Like I don't know what I'm doing either. And every time I come to a circumstance, whether it's the highest of high or the lowest of low, the point here is I have to be intentional and I have to choose to trust and I have to choose then, and we can keep repeating it so it starts to sink in. I have to choose to engage with that trust. And, you know, like, yeah, I remember going home from the funeral, and not only did I go home, but I went for a drive up to see my auntie. So I had a long time. I went home to like where I was staying because, you know, my mum, I had moved out of home at that time. And I remember I went to see my auntie who was very, very dear to me. And little beknowns, that's the last time I would see her and have time with her because she would pass away 6 months later. And it was this conversation that I had with the Lord on the way back from that trip to Queensland to see my auntie. And I remember getting in the car. She lived at Eleanora and she had this beautiful home that oversaw the ocean on the Gold Coast. And I remember saying, you know what, Lord, I'm so sick of talking about funerals and my mum's passing and all of that. What are we going to talk about today? You know, what are we going to talk about today? And that, this intentionally choosing to trust, that moment was the green signs moment. So God said to me, well, Jeanette, I have so much more goodness for you. I want you to take all of this pain and all of this journey, and I want you to inspire the hope of Jesus to the women of Australia and beyond, because there's lots of green road signs all around the world. It's a very common colour. So start praying for the green signs. And from Eleanora right back to Quakers Hill, or maybe I went to our house at Toongabbie, I can't remember. I just prayed for every green sign. Father, I pray for the women in Casino. Father, I pray for the women of Osterville, for the women of Evans Head. I pray for the women of Taree. I pray for the women of North Lakes. I pray for the women of Curry Cully. I pray for the women of Maitland. I pray for the women of Goulburn. That wasn't on that trip. But every time now I have an empty I just don't know what to do on the way home, I start praying for the green signs. And so in that moment, this was birthed. And so, my mum used to say to me, don't waste your tears.
Wow.
Girls, don't waste your tears. Don't waste them. Intentionally trust the Lord, because if you are still here, He has got a plan and a purpose for your life. And we are not sitting here on this couch. It's very real and raw. We've got a 5-year-old. By the way, I wasn't telling you all to shush. I was telling her to shush before. She's, just managing to occupy herself. But that's what real and raw is about, because it's not easy to do this. I'm not sitting here just going, oh, just trust God. Just, it is a minute by minute, second by second. It's a choice. And that is what makes a powerful person, because they choose trust. They choose Jesus, and they choose not to get in their head, So how, do you get in your head, or do you turn away from things, or do you just busy yourself? Like, you like to potter in your kitchen.
I do. Cooking is a good distraction for me. But when I am really in the thick of it, something that I've had to build the muscle on is shifting my focus. And I remember there was something that was giving me immense anxiety. And I just remember holding and fear. And I just remember there was one glimmer of an image that God gave me when I was praying.
Yeah.
And I held that. I just refused to open my eyes, and I refused to move, because forcing myself to be still when all I wanted to do was just squirm with discomfort and, just get on my phone and play Tetris or something to ignore it until 4 a.m. and then go to sleep and then wake up feeling worse. I remember just forcing myself to stay there, and I'd had my hands in my eyes and just stayed focused on that one little picture that God gave me in that moment. And it wasn't even, there was no words. It was all just every part of me just holding that discipline to just keep that one little tiny vision that I had. And amazingly, it actually opened up more later and became something really life-changing. But in that moment of fear and sickness and anxiety, you really wrestle. And visual stuff helps me. I know that's not something for everyone. I thought that everyone this was a normal thing to visualise things. But it's not. But you can learn this.
You can learn it, yes.
And I do an exercise, especially when I'm carrying a lot of heaviness. I will imagine going up into a room or a heavenly space or a space of my imagination. I'll imagine going there, and I will imagine that there is a basket on the floor, and then everything that I am carrying, good and bad, I will put in that basket. And I will spend sometimes 5 or 10 minutes emptying every thought that I have into this basket. And sometimes if it's really terrifying, awful stuff that I'm putting in that basket, I'll light it, imagine lighting it with a match and burning it.
Yeah, wow.
But sometimes most of the time I can now turn my back on it and completely abandon it and walk towards the face of God. So that's a very common practice that I do most days, actually, before I go and pray. And the reason I leave it there and abandon it is because my belief system behind that is, God, you are a good Father. You are a good Creator. You know me more than I know myself. Anything I've put in this basket, I trust that when I come back to it, it's going to be better than how I left it. And I trust that you're going to refine it, you're going to transform it. And then when I pick this basket back up and come back out into this human world, whatever is left in this basket, I give that to, I abandon it, and I trust that you're the better parent for this and that you will refine this. It's amazing how many things change
Yeah.
when you come back out of that space.
That, yeah, look, that is really helpful, Jess, because that's also something practical. And I think that as you were saying that story, this came into my mind. Like, intentionality is intense. Like, life journeys are intense. Like, I've been a bridesmaid, like, I think like 21 times or something. And the morning the bride is getting ready, like, it's interesting what people post and the reality. It's quite intense. And it's not intense because people are being intense. It's just an intense moment. Like I was sharing your story before, like you're leaving your home, your parents are realizing that, you've got flowers being dropped off, you've got I don't know, rose petals, and the florist is coming, and you got to get your makeup and your hair, and you're trying to have a nice moment and have, you know, orange juice and mangoes, and you're like, you're going through your wedding speech. And so I'm trying to pick a lighter thing, but it's like, it's intense. But we have to choose. And, you know, my friends, Liz and Nat, shout out to you girls. They have taught me all about regulation. You know, we do this for the Inspire girls. You know, we help them, you know, they come into this space, and for some of them, they know us well, but for some of them, we're just another set of people, another camp. And so how do we help them regulate? And choosing is an expression of regulation, because the Lord does not want you, and he just said this to me 2 nights ago, Jeanette, I do not want you to sit here anxious and afraid. This is not my best for you. I've got it. And you know, another mentor, he said to me, you know, Nelson, he's like a father to me. He said, you know, Jeanette, take it to the worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that can happen? This is another tool, and work back from there. And he's like, by the way, the worst case scenario has never happened in my life, you know, but if you want to do that, if you're anxious, just go there and work back from that. And I think, yeah, intentionality, I'm intentionally choosing to trust, but choice, like you were saying about repentance, choice is actually an active, it requires activation. It requires us to do something, like we have to choose. And I'm choosing to believe that I would have despaired, I could have despaired if I did not believe I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And here I am sitting on a couch with getting married at 38 and having that vision, you know, in one of my days of singleness struggle, that this little girl, probably, you know, it would have been Blossom, obviously, but the reason I'm saying probably is because the girl was about her age now. She comes in with a plate and she just says, "Happy birthday, Mummy." So she's old enough to talk and she's old enough to give it. And here I have one little girl who just recently said, "Happy birthday, Mummy." Was excited to celebrate me. And, you know, then we have your story, and then we have Annabelle's story, but he is within each of them, twisting it and molding it and finishing where we started. He is in the before, he is in the after, he is in the now. But for Annabelle, Jess and Jeanette, we have to choose to intentionally trust. And there is goodness for us, and there is wonderful things for us yet to come in the land of the living. And if you had given up, if I had given up, well, we wouldn't get this moment, this sacred moment. And I have to say, Annabelle and I were just talking about the intensity of some of the things we do in Inspiring Hope. But like doing this podcast, this is not intense at all. This is this wonderful day. We come, you know, we all gathered, we make tea, we catch up, we show each other's houses. We're going to have nice soup and bread. And it's such a blessing to be with girlfriends who just love Jesus in this moment. And there is so much reward for you choosing to intentionally trust Jesus. There is so much freedom in you intentionally trusting Jesus. So yeah, I just, yeah, I've really just loved these two conversations. Is there anything else you want to say?
Oh, no, I think you've said just so many good things.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I love about these conversations is that it's putting the permission back into the hands of us.
Yeah.
And I say permission because we live a long time. We've lived a long life of feeling like we are unworthy or that we don't have the permission to be part of designing the land of the living.
Yes.
But that's the whole point of us being here, and that God wants to be one with us. It's not doing it alone, it's doing it as an Aleph, as a learner, as an engaged one being with a living, breathing God.
Yeah.
And we actually have permission and have the freedom to approach the presence of God and to curate the life that we get to live here. And our days are we don't know how long we're going to live for. And so we only have now.
We only have now.
Yeah.
We
And
only
doing
have today.
this concept, sorry, my phone's under here. This concept that you've brought of this framework that you've built, that helps you be very conscious about what to do, and it helps you practically know how to be more of a participant
Yeah.
in this human experience.
In this human experience. And, these are just little markers to help you engage intentionally in navigating the transitions of life in a measured way. So, girls, it's funny. I was just saying at the end of the last little episode, when I'm sitting here talking, I mean, the vision for this is just to love and bless the girls in our world and in our Inspiring Hope family, because we're far and wide these days. We can't all meet for coffee on Jen's couch. I mean, you're welcome, but it's just not practical. But this is our way of just letting you know, like when we're sitting here talking, we're thinking of you, and we're thinking of the circumstances that you've shared with us and talked to us about. And we're just here sharing some wisdom of our journey with the Lord to just bless you. So we love you. We're praying for you. Don't forget to send your prayer requests. And I'm really looking forward to our next episode, which will be navigating. Navigating is the big one. So we love you, girls, and we'll see you again on, I don't know whose couch we're going to be on next time.
Oh.
We might be at a table. You never know. We might change it up a bit.
It's a bit interesting.
But we'll see you again soon. So love you. Bye.
Bye.
We strive to inspire the hope of Jesus by building girls up generation to generation. Our hope is that you are inspired wherever you are in your walk with the Lord and in your life through this content. For additional information, you can find us at inspiringhope.org.au. We pray that you are blessed and encouraged by the Real and Broad podcast hosted by Jeanette Melbourne.